I do not use that alarm because that would be an absolutely terrible start to any day, and that is not what we're about, especially not during Camp Nano. Hello all, it is Nikki, and for the second video of Camp Nano, I thought I would give you guys a little glimpse of a day in the Nano life. I have a day off today, I have the house to myself, so I'm just planning, Lord willing, to have a day of writing productivity. Now, I do have a lot of things that I want to accomplish today, not just Nano related. One, I do need to write a blog. I want to do some query preparation. I still need to work on one of my proposals and some last minute polishing for the story that I'm trying to query. I would also like to get some reading done, and my main goal is to write at least 2,000 words for my Nano project. Today, already, I got up at 6:30, which was not by design. I'd love to pretend that it was, but it wasn't. I read my Bible, I had breakfast, I did some Pilates, especially when I know that the day is just gonna be like all writing. That's a very sedentary day, so it's nice to get some moving in before I launch into that. My first order of business now is to get my blog posted, so let's get to it. Okay, so ready to start blogging. This normally takes me like half an hour to an hour max. I really love writing the blog. You can find it at www.nikkiflorica.com. I post 1 to 2 times a week, and they're sort of just things that are on my mind, little encouragements, little blessings, things that I think maybe people need to hear or that I needed to hear and God showed me. So if you need some more of that in your life, I suggest that you pop by the website, and while you're at it, feel free to subscribe. You will only get 1 monthly message from me, I promise. I actually did a little bit of a website makeover fairly recently. I wasn't really happy with the way my website looked for like a long time. I sort of threw it together when I first started this whole like author adventure thing. I made a few tweaks here and there, but I didn't really overhaul it. So recently I kind of changed the look. I'm a lot happier with it now. Let's blog. Hey guys, so I wanted to do a quick little side note to tell you guys what I am reading right now. I just posted my blog, and I would like to go straight into Camp Nano stuff, but I feel like I should be disciplined and do query research first. But before all that, right now, I am in the middle of Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn, The Final Empire, which is so good. I just felt the need to share it with you guys. I love Brandon Sanderson stuff, and the reason I'm telling you this is because I really wanted to like keep the creative juices flowing for Camp Nano, and to do that by reading things in my genre. Sometimes I find if I read a lot of stuff that's outside of my genre, what I read affects how I write. So if I read like a Dickens novel, and then I go and try to work on my fantasy project, then I find that the writing ends up being like a lot more formal than I'd kind of like it to be. But then sometimes if I read something a little more like juvenile or for like a younger age group, and then I go to try and write my fantasy novel, it'll end up being like not sophisticated enough. I thought it would be a good idea to keep myself in the right headspace, read the right novels, the novels that I'm trying to sort of emulate with what I am working on. Mistborn is one of those series that I've like heard about so much, especially ever since I started reading his Stormlight Archive. They're both like within the same universe. I haven't quite figured out how that all works, but I'm sure it will be made clear eventually. It is part of a 4-book or 3-book series, which either way means that I'm going to have to wait to get my hands on the second one because libraries aren't open yet, but hopefully they will be soon, and hopefully that will be by the end of Camp Nano, so I will be able to stock up on Brandon Sanderson books and other books within my genre. Anyway, I digress. Hello all, I am outside because it's a beautiful day, and why not? You might actually be able to see a little bit of the massive swing set that we're building out of telephone poles in the background for the grandkids. I would love to jump straight into Camp Nano stuff, but unfortunately, I do really need to be hard on myself to be disciplined and to work on query stuff instead, because my goal to do my first round of querying is coming up fast, which means that I kind of need to like get the ball rolling there. And the ball is rolling. I am well underway. It's just that one of the agents that I would like to query for the first round requires more than just a query letter. She would like a full proposal too. So I had to do a little bit of research into what that looks like, what she'd like from it, what she's expecting. And so that took a little bit of time. Oh, there's so many bees around right now. Oh. What is that? Oh! Danger. I don't even know what that was, but that thing was scary. It looked like something out of Jurassic Park. Where was I? Right, so now I'm kind of working on polishing that, getting it fully shipshape, and trying to think of any extra things I could add to it to really give as much detail about the story as possible. I want to do it for an hour. That's normally the amount of time that I will sit and do query research before I take a break, just because, I don't know why, but it's just not my jam. I find it really, really hard to motivate myself to do that. I think it's a little bit of like anxiety that sort of keeps me from wanting to do it, just because the whole process kind of makes me a bit nervous. Once I get going, it's always fine, and doing it in those like 1 hour at a time increments does help it to feel more manageable. And hopefully by this afternoon, I will be able to dive right into Camp Nano stuff and get 2,000 words. Will I do it? It's worth a shot. Hello all! So I have done my hour of query research. It was pretty productive. I worked on my proposal. I did find some really good resources for things to add to proposals, to make them stronger, and those resources were actually from the agent that I'm trying to query, which is awesome because I know the things that I'm adding are things that she's actually and specifically looking for, which is a little bit reassuring because there's always an element of like, I don't know what people want from me or what agents want, because everybody sort of has different preferences and different requirements. So it is nice to like solidly, definitively know that this information is coming from the agent that I'm trying to query, so I know that this is something that she approves of and is looking for. Now, I probably should have gone straight into Camp Nano after that while I had momentum, but I didn't, because the temptation was just too great. So instead, I read another 200 pages of Mistborn and actually finished it. I think it was roughly 200 pages. Guys, it was so good. It was like one of those books that's so satisfying in the ending, but leaves you so hungry for more. Everything, I don't want to say anymore because no spoilers, but I just really wish I had book 2. That aside, it is time to stop procrastinating and get to work on my Nano project. I know I said in my last goals video that I wanted a full draft by the end of this month, but on the actual Camp Nano website, I went with the more realistic Nano goal standard of 50,000 words. And to be honest, as cool as it would be to have a full draft, I've realized that that is like basically impossible. So I would be perfectly happy with 50,000 words. But right now I'm averaging like 1,000 words a day, so I really need to up my game in order to make that happen. Enough talk, let's write. Well, I wasn't sure I was going to make it, and I gotta be honest, I did feel like I was kind of burning out by the end of that writing session. But we did it. We hit 7,000 words in total, which means that I did write my 2,000 words today. That is a step in the right direction. And I'm also very happy that now I get to take a break. I'm usually more of a write a little, take a break, go back, take a break kind of writer. I find it hard to like sit and just write for a set amount of time. That's why I never really did writing sprints until fairly recently, when I realized like how productive that could be with those little breaks in between to sort of make you feel like you're not just staring at a screen for a solid hour or 2 hours. I'm still in the beginning stages of my draft right now, so I'm still introducing the characters and the world and getting a feel for it. It's kind of trippy, to be honest, because I've rewritten this story so many times. I've had so many different versions of this scene, but they've all been pretty similar. This one now is very, very different, which is cool, but it's also kind of hard to get used to and hard to get a feel for. I know I mentioned this in one of my last videos that in my earlier drafts, who knows how many drafts, oh my goodness, I had really weird and very strict rules for what words I could use and what phrasing I could use. It had to be very formal, not only in the narration, but in the dialogue. Like, I wasn't allowed to use contractions at all. Maybe 2 characters, 2, 3 max, were allowed to use carefully selected contractions in their dialogue, and everyone else couldn't use them and had to speak very formally. Since then, I've read a lot more fantasy and a lot more contemporary fantasy and realized that that's really not a thing. Like, people talk normally for the most part in contemporary fantasy novels. And it makes sense. If you have all these strict rules for your prose and for your dialogue, and they start to like impede the storytelling, like if they become an obstacle that make it difficult to say what you're trying to say, then that's just compromising your story and your effectiveness as a storyteller. It took me a long time to figure that out. It's been very freeing. I'm excited to see what my characters sound like now that they can speak more freely and more casually without all that like formal, gross talk that just sometimes worked, but sometimes just sounded awkward. Overall, I think this has been a very productive day. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope that you guys are having very productive Camp Nanos as well, or if you're not doing Camp Nano, that you just had a productive day, period. If you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already, because that would make me super, super happy. I hope you guys have a great day, and do not forget to spend some time in the clouds today.